The downfall of Ben Simmons is one of the strangest and most debated stories in modern NBA history. Not because he suddenly forgot how to play basketball, but because a player who once looked like a future MVP slowly became one of the most polarizing figures the league has ever seen. This is the story of how a generational talent went from the next superstar to a question mark in the NBA. When Ben Simmons entered the league, the expectations were enormous. Coming out of Louisiana State University, Simmons was viewed as a once-in-a-generation prospect. At 6'10", with the elite athleticism, vision, and ball handling, he looked like a point guard trapped in a power forward's body. Scouts compared him to LeBron James, not because he played exactly the same way, but because his size and playmaking ability were something the league had rarely seen before. In the National Basketball Association draft, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Ben Simmons with the first overall pick in 2016. The Sixers believed they had found the final piece of the rebuild known as the process, alongside young superstar center Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons was supposed to bring Philadelphia back to championship contention, but Ben Simmons' rookie season didn't start the way people expected. Before he could even play his first game, he suffered a foot injury that forced him to miss the entirety of 2016-2017 season. Some people were worried, but the hype never really faded. If anything, it built even more anticipation for his debut. When Ben Simmons finally stepped on the floor in the 2017-2018 season, he immediately looked like the star everyone expected. He averaged nearly a triple-double over stretches of the season, dominated in transition, and showcased passing ability that made highlight reels every night. That's the year he won NBA Rookie of the Year and helped lead the Sixers to one of their most exciting seasons in years. For a moment, everything looked perfect. Philadelphia had its young superstar duo, Joel Embiid, was dominating in the paint, and Ben Simmons was dominating the offense like a 6'10" point guard. The Sixers were one of the most exciting young teams in basketball. But even during that incredible rookie season, there was one flaw that people couldn't ignore. Ben Simmons could not shoot. Not just that he struggled to shoot, he almost completely avoided it. Simmons rarely attempted three-pointers and was hesitant even with the mid-range shots. Defenders quickly realized that they could sag off of him and pack the paint, daring him to shoot. At first, it didn't seem like a massive problem. Simmons was so good at everything else that his lack of shooting didn't stop him from dominating games. His defense was elite, his passing was elite, and his rebounding was elite. And in transition, he was nearly unstoppable. But as the Sixers pushed deeper into their playoff run, that weakness became harder to ignore. In the postseason, the game slows down. Teams study every weakness and exploit it over and over again. Defenses began building entire strategies around Simmons, his inability to shoot. They would literally leave him wide open at the three-point line, daring him to take the shot. And most of the time, he didn't still. Simmons continued to collect accolades. He made multiple NBA All-Star teams and finished second in voting for NBA Defensive Player of the Year. On defense, he can guard almost anyone on the floor, from quick guards to powerful forwards, but the offense limitations kept showing up in the biggest moments. Then came the series that would define his career. During the 2021 NBA playoffs, the Sixers faced the Atlanta Hawks in the second round. On paper, Philly was the better team. Many analysts expected them to win the series and make a deep playoff run, but the Hawks had a young superstar in their own of Trae Young, and they exposed Philadelphia's weakness in ways no team had ever before. The turning point came in Game 7, late in the fourth quarter. Ben Simmons had an open path to the basket. Instead of going up for what looked like an easy dunk, he passed the ball to Matisse Thybulle. That play shocked fans, commentators, and even his teammates. It became one of the most replayed clips in NBA history. To many people, it looked like Simmons had completely lost confidence in his own scoring ability. After the game, even Joel Embiid admitted that that moment was a turning point in the loss. That public comment created tension between the team's two stars, and the relationship between Simmons and the organization began to fracture. Things only got worse. In that same playoff series, Ben Simmons struggled badly at the free throw line. The Hawks used intentional fouling strategies, forcing him to shoot free throws because they knew he was unlikely to make them. His free throw percentage dropped historically low levels for a player his caliber. The criticism was relentless. Fans, analysts, and former players all questioned his mentality, his confidence, and his willingness to improve his game. Then, the situation exploded. Before the next season even began, Ben Simmons requested a trade for the Philadelphia 76ers. He reportedly felt the team had thrown him under the bus after the playoff loss. Instead of reporting to training camp, Ben Simmons held out, refusing to play for the team. The standoff lasted for months. Eventually, the Sixers traded him to Brooklyn in a massive deal that sent James Harden to the Sixers. The trade was supposed to give Simmons a fresh start in Brooklyn, but the fresh start never really happened. Back injuries began to pile up, forcing Simmons to miss significant time. Even when he returned to the court, he didn't look the same. The explosiveness wasn't the same, the aggression wasn't the same, and the scoring almost felt completely different. Fans who once expected Simmons to become a superstar were now wondering if he would ever return to his former level. Confidence seemed to be the biggest issue. Basketball at the highest level is much mental as it is physical, and Ben Simmons looked hesitant in situations where he once dominated. Instead of attacking the rim, he often passed out of scoring opportunities. The criticism never stopped. Some fans called him one of the biggest draft busts in NBA history. Others argued that label wasn't fair, pointing out that Simmons already had multiple All-Star teams and was still one of the most versatile defenders in the league. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Ben Simmons wasn't a bust in the traditional sense. For several seasons, he was one of the most unique players in the NBA, a 6'10" point guard who can defend all 5 positions and run an offense like a floor general. But the expectations placed on him were massive. When you're drafted first overall and compared to players like LeBron James, people expect superstardom. They expect evolution. They expect improvement. And that's where Simmons' story became so complicated. For years, fans waited for him to develop a reliable jump shot. Every off-season, there were videos of Simmons practicing threes in empty gyms. Every season, people hoped that this would finally be the year he started shooting. But the change never came. In a league that increasingly values spacing and shooting, Simmons' offensive limits became harder and harder to build around. The modern NBA is built on floor spacing, three-point shooting, and versatile scoring. Players who refuse to shoot give defenses an enormous advantage. Yet despite all the criticism, Simmons' story might not be finished. He is still relatively young compared to many players whose career declined, and players who reinvented themselves before. Confidence can return, health can improve, situations can change. Whether Ben Simmons eventually redeems his career or remains one of the biggest NBA's what-if stories is still unknown. But one thing is certain, few players in modern basketball have experienced the rise and fall as dramatic as Ben Simmons was. From the first overall pick and Rookie of the Year, to All-Star appearances and Defensive Player of the Year conversations, to one of the most disappointing players in the league. His journey is a reminder that talent alone doesn't guarantee greatness. In the NBA, development, confidence, mentality, and adaptability matter just as much as raw ability. And until the final chapter of his career is written, the story of Ben Simmons remains as one of the most fascinating downfalls the league has ever seen.